This charming sculpture, cherished by the guest, was originally owned by his grandmother, who gifted it to them before her passing. The guest recalls their grandmother's love for animals, evident in her collection of animals.
And had quite a number of pieces that were related to birds and dogs and things like that.
The sculpture is French, created by artist Maximilien Fiot, known for his work in the animalier tradition, a style depicting animals in various naturalistic settings. Fiot, born in the 1880s and active until the 1950s, represents the third generation of artists in this tradition. Created in the 1910s or 1920s, this sculpture exemplifies the continuation of the animalier tradition into the 20th century. Cast by Sus Ferrez, a prominent Parisian foundry known for casting works for the first generation of animalier sculptors, this piece is a testament to the skilled artistry of Fiot. The sculpture beautifully captures the interaction between a horse and a dog.
I think it's just so charming and really wonderful. And I think you get an idea of the personality of these two figures interacting.
Mesmerizing.
The appraiser values this sculpture, larger than most of Fiot's works, at a retail price of
$7,000 to $8,000 range.
The guest purchased this charming map at an antique shop in Hamilton, Virginia for $500, attracted by its color and historical significance to Georgetown, a place they lived near. Painted in oil on plywood, the map depicts various landmarks and streets of Georgetown, offering a glimpse into the area's history. The appraiser, with a personal connection to the area, finds the map particularly intriguing. The map highlights Roosevelt Island and the early view of Georgetown as a bustling port on the Potomac River. It also features notable sites like the Oak Hill Cemetery Gatehouse and Dumbarton Oaks House,
which is now part of Harvard University. There's a museum and a library there. The United Nations were planned there.
Despite its flaws, which adds to its folk art charm, the appraiser values this Georgetown's map at
I would offer it at $4,000.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you.
Its exuberant depiction of Georgetown's history and landmarks make it a valuable and delightful piece of folk art. The guest's grandfather was Alexander Golitsyn, the art director of the Universal Studios. One of Golitsyn's colleagues and friends, John Datu Arinsma, gave the guest a belt buckle when he was a child. The guest later discovered that the buckle was the same as the one worn by John Wayne in several films. The belt buckle was made for the cast and crew of the movie Red River, directed by Howard Hawks. Each buckle was personalized with the recipient's initials, and the guest's buckle bears the initials JD for John Datu Arinsma. The buckle features a design based on the brand from the ranch owned by John Wayne's character.
So I did a little research, and I know that John was the art director on Red River.
Although John Wayne's personal buckle went missing after his death, this is valuable and desirable piece of Hollywood memorabilia. Due to its association with the production of Red River and its solid provenance, the buckle is estimated to be worth between...
So to have one that's tied with the production, I would say at least in the $3,000 to $5,000 range at auction.
Wow.
An estimate.
Wow.
This stunning sculpture, titled Golden Tree, holds a special place in the owner's heart, as it was purchased from renowned designer Harry Bertoia. Working at Knoll Associates, the owner had the opportunity to interact with Bertoia, and eventually acquired this sculpture for $250. Originally, the sculpture featured bright gold balls, but over time, they have dulled. Considering restoring it, the owner sought advice on its value and restoration feasibility. The appraiser provided a detailed history of Bertoia, highlighting his Italian origins, his collaboration with Florence Knoll and Charles Ames, and
he was very successful as a metal worker, and he actually headed the metalworking department at Cranbrook, and he made jewelry.
The sculpture, part of Bertoia's Bush series, is made of bronze and welded together, showcasing his unique artistic approach. Despite its potential labor-intensive restoration, estimated at a couple of $1,000s, the sculpture's current auction value is between
$30,000 and $50,000.
Oh, nice.
I think so.
Made in 1788 in Newcastle, this tankard was willed to the guest by his brother. Tankards were commonly used from the second half of the 16th century until the end of the 18th century.
The tankard is English.
Early tankards were made from bronze plates and wooden staves with copper alloy handles attached to rivets. This piece is more likely to be displayed on a mantelpiece than used for drinking. They are also still used in certain pubs around the world for that added beer-drinking authenticity, and pewter standards are still a novelty today and provide a more enjoyable way to drink for some people. Despite its age, this unique piece is in good condition, maintaining its appeal to collectors, and would easily fetch a sum of,
In the retail level, a sterling silver 18th century tankard would probably bring somewhere in the $2,000 to $2,500 price range. It's great.
Thank you.
Passed down to her by her dad 27 years ago, this billboard artwork is an original oil painting. This piece was painted by an American impressionist, Philip Lyford. Lyford was an artist born in 1887 and was very famous for Flanders Field. The artist's works have gone up for sale at a public auction 15 times, mostly in the painting category. This piece was painted as a billboard to go on top of a building. It features a man holding Narragansett beer, which was the first beer brewed by the Original Six back in 1890.
This billboard actually was on display here on top of one of the local buildings.
There's a lot of people collecting original artwork for advertising and illustration now. Yet, the real question is how much would this rare artwork sell for at auction?
This piece of $800 to $1,000.
Wow.
Great, that's terrific.
That's great.
Yeah.
The guest showcased a wedding dress that belonged to her great-aunt's mother-in-law. The guest recalled having a picture of her grand-aunt wearing it to a party in the early 1930s. This piece is a style that was pretty common for wedding dresses of that period, especially in America. It is a three-piece garment with a skirt, an overskirt, with train to make it a little more formal, with a lovely bodice. It has a little lace-embroidered cotton collar and matching underserved that are sewn into the dress.
And you often find these undersleeves unattached and unassociated with the garments.
The dress is a wonderful design and still in good condition without being abraded. The current value of this piece at auction would be
A retail value of about $800 to $1,200 on it.
Great, that's awesome.
This cigar box guitar was brought onto the show by a guest. The guest bought it at a garage sale 2 years ago. It is a mandolin with 8 strings. Although this piece might not look like much to the average person, today it's a testament to the ingenuity of the people from the early 1900s when this guitar was made. The cigar box guitar is, of course, made out of a cigar box, but the origin of an item like this cannot be precisely determined. This guitar was made by someone who desired a mandolin but had limited resources. A cigar box, a bunch of wood, and some wire. Another notable feature of this instrument is the painted decoration on the front of the box and its bridge crafted from a piece of paper. There also appears to have been some fretboard originally, but it has since undergone improvements and reinforcements. This guitar's history represents a time when people made the most of the materials they had available. One could only wonder how much this piece would be worth at auction.
$1,200. Yeah, wow, Ken, that's amazing. That is amazing.
Showcased on the show today is a weird-looking figurine that has been in our guest's family for about 3 to 4 generations.
Been in our family for 3 or 4 generations.
It was in their family home back in South London, and the guest's great-great-grandfather repainted it every year. This figurine is an exquisite piece of folk art, which is meant to represent a character called Paul Pry. Popularly known by most Englishmen in the early 19th century, a play was written in 1825 by a man named John Paul. The main attribute of this character revolves around the fact that the character would leave his umbrella somewhere and then go back to get it, which he did on purpose because the character is nosy and always wanted to find out what was going on. The character was very popular in the 1820s to 1840s, and many public houses were named after the character. This particular figurine wasn't carried on a ship due to some distinctive features, like the retractable umbrella on its side. It would most likely have belonged to a public house. This figurehead is probably carved from elm, a distinct type of plant found in North America, and it's about 200 years old. As we can see, this figurine has a lot of history and longevity on its side, which no double boosts its valuation up to
easily at auction worth between £3,000 and £5,000.
Wow.
Tapestries are not just ordinary pieces of fabric. They hold stories, secrets, and sometimes surprising value. The guest found an old tapestry in their aunt's attic back in 1973. They didn't think much of it at the time and just tucked it away in their bedroom closet. Years later, they started going through some old stuff they found with the tapestry and realized it might be valuable. It turned out that the tapestry was bought in 1922 from a factory in Germany for $140. The design on the tapestry was based on a famous painting by John van Eyck, a well-known artist from the 15th century. This painting is found in a church in Flanders. But there were small differences in the colors and the way it was made, suggesting that it was made more recently than traditional tapestries from the time. While examining the tapestry, the appraiser said,
"I would value this at about $8,000 on the retail level."
I can't believe that. That's fantastic.
The guest brought in an unusual item, which is a toilet seat she claims belonged to Queen Victoria. While not from Osborne House, the guest insisted it was from one of the Queen Victoria's cottages on the estate. Although it is a unique and frankly weird item, it is also intriguing. The toilet was still in use in the guest's own bathroom till this very day.
Just interjected, obviously, into this conversation. This is her alternative throne, obviously, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
However, as a conversation piece for dinner guests, a collector might be willing to pay.
I would be prepared to spend £500 on that toilet seat.
Oh my gosh, is it that valuable?
Our guest got the print from the Huron Elks Lodge during a remodel. The print is by Rosa Bronher, a famous 19th century artist. Original print is massive and exhibited in Paris since 1853. It's called The Horse Fair and made Bonheur very famous. It was so popular that numerous copies were made in various sizes and processes.
It is probably one of the most common subjects for 19th century prints. Obviously, most of them are not this size.
This print is a large chromiolithograph printed from separate stones. Despite its rarity, there is some surface damage, and there's acid in the old wood backing. Restoration might be costly but worthwhile because the print holds significant value. Guest invested $500 in it, but now it's valued at an astonishing figure.
But I think really in a retail environment, even in this condition, you're probably talking about $8,000 to $9,000.
Near them.
When we talk about World War, the first thing that comes to most people's minds is the Second World War. But today's guest takes us back in time to the First World War.
My grandfather was a sergeant in the Royal Garrison Artillery, and he died in 1963 when I was 10. But I can remember when I was a small boy finding these two albums of photographs on his bookshelf.
Taken during the First World War, these secret photos depict the guest's grandfather during the First World War.
Inscribed brothers, Jim and I, outside the dugout. Which one's which?
Right, my grandfather is the figure on the left-hand side, that's Hugh, and then his brother Jim on the right.
In the picture is also a trench where the guest's grandfather stands, and this immediately depicts a piece of history to be remembered by many. Perhaps what's surprising about these pictures is that during the time of war, they weren't encouraged as it was believed they would spark controversy. Since this is one of the very few pictures showing the First World War, it's clearly a piece of history and is valued at.
There are no others like this. And I think they're going to be worth somewhere in the region of £400 to £500.
Well, and the monetary value, of course, is of no consequence. And
Today's guest features a custom-made weather vane in his house.
I don't know if it's a one-off, if somebody made it specifically for this house, or I don't know anything about it.
A weather vane is an instrument used to tell the direction of the wind. As we can see, the weather vane is in a mermaid form with a shell which the mermaid holds. The weather vane is beautifully crafted and signifies quality, especially when you look at the direction signs.
This one is particularly beautifully made. If you look at the directionals, I mean, that's always a nice sign for the quality of a weather vane.
These direction signs are known to indicate the accuracy and quality of weather vanes. Also featured here is a peacock in the lawn. Although still battered, the peacock communicates elegance. In fact, in biblical history, the peacock is known as a symbol of resurrection. An item with such scientific, historical importance was estimated to auction for
maybe an auction estimate of $10,000 to $15,000.
Okay, that's pretty good.
And I think it would do better than that.
Yeah, all right.
It's a really pretty. I love the tail, the way it drapes down.
You just don't know when it's going to run off again. You know, it's like Runaway Bride. It's one of those things that shows up and it disappears for decades and then comes back.
This championship jacket belonged to Johnny Unitas, a football icon known for his confidence and sense of humor.
Probably the most important person in pro football history, or one of them certainly.
The jacket commemorates the Baltimore Colts' victory in the 1958 championship game against the New York Giants, a historic moment in football history. Featuring a patch that reads, Early World Champions 1958, and Unitas' name etched into the fabric, the jacket is a rare and desirable piece from football's golden era. The jacket's excellent condition and the presence of Unitas' name on both a patch and a manufacturer's tag add to its desirability and value. This jacket represents a significant piece of sports memorabilia, especially for fans from the Baltimore Colts and football history in general. This championship jacket is valued at an estimated
at $40,000 to $60,000 for auction.
And it's going to stay in the family.
The first thing you'd think when you see a sculpture like this,
It's by the leading black artist or black sculptor in America, Richmond Barthay, who was active in the 1920s through the 1940s.
This is weird, but this sculpture by Richard Barth is an embodiment of quality, despite its unconventional appearance. It was created in 1930 by Richmond, and the sculpture is rare. Nevertheless, as a quality piece created by a legend, this piece will surely be worth a ton, which makes it auction at
$20,000 to $30,000.
Yikes! That's great.
It's great. Wow. It's a great piece.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
The guest brought in a collection of rock and roll memorabilia that served as a treasure trove of memories from his unique career path. Having worked in security, he had the privilege of providing backstage access and ensuring the safety of legendary musicians like the Monkees, the Osmonds, Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, and Bob Dylan. One prized possession was a signed Andy Warhol print of Mick Jagger. It is dedicated to the guest and was given to him at a concert in Japan.
Thanks for all your help, especially at the lighting board.
The collection's crown jewels were a set of 4 postcards. These seemingly ordinary postcards featured portraits of Mick Jagger by Andy Warhol, the famed pop artist. However, what elevated them to extraordinary status was the fact that they were signed by both Warhol and Jagger. This unique combination of artistic and musical legends transformed these postcards into highly valuable pieces of music memorabilia. Their estimated worth is
Region of sort of £3,500 to £5,000.
Taking the entire collection into account, the estimated value at auction is
£15,000 and £20,000.
Praise the Lord.
The guest received a mysterious green box from his father-in-law's shed. Initially believed to be a toolbox, it turned out to be a much more intriguing discovery, a World War II radio set. This particular radio, a Mark III B2 or B2, played a crucial role in covert operations undertaken by the Special Operations Executive, SOE. Established by Winston Churchill in 1940, the SOE aimed to disrupt Nazi-occupied territories through sabotage and intelligence gathering. Effective communication was paramount for these missions, and the B-2 radio, the brainchild of Captain Brown of SOE Section 9, was designed to address that need. The B-2's unique selling point was its versatility. It could be powered by various sources, including mains electricity, batteries, car generators, or even a bicycle dynamo. This adaptability made it ideal for clandestine operations where access to conventional power supplies might be limited. The presenter even showed a photograph depicting a scenario where the radio was connected to a bicycle for power generation. The box also contained a clue to its past owner, Sergeant F.L. Church of the Royal Signals. An additional piece of information emerged. The call sign, G3CUW, is associated with amateur radio communications. The historical significance of the B-2 radio and the daring SOE missions it potentially facilitated places its value at
somewhere between £10,000 and £15,000.
The guest acquired this carved panel from a suburb of New Orleans, finding it online and being impressed by its detailed carving. Originally used as a side door to a garage, the panel was too heavy for the previous owner to use regularly with children and a dog. Upon examination, the appraiser noted the panel's monumental size and construction from mahogany.
And it's made in sections and pieced together. And by piecing it together, it would actually give it more strength.
Stylistic elements, such as the stylized eagle and the inclusion of "In God We Trust," suggest a creation date possibly in the 1920s or 1930s, rather than the 19th century. Despite having several layers of paint, the panel's monochromatic tone adds to its charm as a decorative piece of folk art. The appraiser suggests removing the handle for better display.
But I think it would look amazing if you could mount it on a wall of a home.
This panel is given a retail valuation of
$4,000 to $6,000 on this.
Wow. I wasn't going to say that, but I'm impressed. I am impressed.
The guest discovered this piece while cleaning their in-laws' house. Appraiser identifies it as a necklace made by the famous costume jewelry manufacturer Hobie.
This piece was made in the late 30s into the 1940s.
Despite being unsigned, the style of metalwork and stone setting, and the presence of distinctive little flowers, are characteristic of Hobie's work. The necklace, made of white metal with a gold plating, is a rare find, as the appraiser has only seen one other Hobie necklace. Its estimated value at retail is between
$1,000 and $1,200.
Oh, wow. Nice.
The guest purchased a Native American blanket, possibly a chief's blanket, at a thrift store. Appraiser identifies it as a third-phase chief's blanket, distinguished by its stepped triangles in the corners and center, indicative of a weaving style from western New Mexico or eastern Arizona, likely Navajo.
This blanket was probably woven in the 1870s.
Blankets' colors are derived from natural sources, with indigo for blue, natural white, and possibly cochineal for red, a dye extracted from cochineal beetles found on prickly pear cacti. The green may be from a plant called rabbit brush. This blanket appears to have undergone some alterations with added fringe and a cut and sewn section. Despite its condition, the blanket's value at auction is estimated to be between
$16,000 and $18,000.
Wow. Great.
The guest's family heirloom is a war club called a pakapaki, reportedly given to her great-grandmother around 1795 by her great-uncle,
who apparently was a sailor with Captain Cook.
The pakapaki is from Tonga and is made of casuarina wood, known for its density and durability, making it a formidable weapon in war. Design on the club is a deliberate pattern, possibly indicating the owner's pride and status.
Personal, almost like a tattoo.
I see.
Then he would probably, wherever he went, he would hold it as a badge of office to show how proud he was and what a wonderful weapon he had.
Yeah.
While the association with Captain Cook is intriguing, it cannot be conclusively proven, which would impact the club's value. The appraiser estimates the club value to be conservatively between
I think a retail value, very conservatively, would be between $8,000 and $10,000.
Whoa.
If its connection to Captain Cook could be verified, its value could increase significantly to over
And you would be looking at a figure probably in excess of $100,000, maybe $150,000.
Wow.
But it's a wonderful example. It's fabulous. I'm thrilled you brought it in.
Okay, thank you.
The guest inherited this painting from their grandmother, who reportedly received it directly from the artist Pauline Palmer. Pauline Palmer, a well-known Chicago artist in the 1920s and 1930s, was encouraged by her husband, Dr. Albert Palmer, to continue painting despite societal norms. The painting depicts Provincetown, Massachusetts, where the Palmers spent many summers. Pauline Palmer's Provincetown landscapes are highly sought after. Guest's mother had the painting in her possession until she passed away, and it has now been passed down to the guest. The painting's surface has some grime, likely from cleaning efforts with a potato by the guest's mother.
Interestingly enough, using a potato to clean frescoes was fairly common. Really? More common was actually white bread. And bread works beautifully. Potato leaves grime on the surface.
The appraiser suggests a professional cleaning, which could increase its value to between
I would expect it to be more like $15,000 to $20,000.
Very nice. We'll keep it in the family.
Absolutely. I think you should.
Though in its current state, it could still fetch.
I would expect it to fetch between $8,000 and $12,000, conservatively.
The guest inherited this item from their grandmother's jewelry box in 1988 and had been curious about its function and origins ever since. The item is revealed to be a jabot, used to secure large shawls worn by women in the early 20th century. It features jadeite stones carved with clouds and foliate designs. These jadeite pieces were likely repurposed from a court necklace.
It's a different kind of composition from jade. And the type of carving that's in the stone is of clouds and some foliate devices. The carving and the size of these indicates that this was from China.
The item also includes rubies, old mine diamonds, and is set in platinum, suggesting high-quality craftsmanship. Despite lacking a signature, the design and style of the jobot suggests that it was made in France by a skilled craftsman. The combination of Asian materials with Western craftsmanship was popular in the early 20th century, adding to the item's historical and aesthetic value. The appraiser estimates the jabot's value at least
This would be at least $10,000.
$10,000?
$10,000.
Wow.
This heirloom has been in their family for generations, originating from their maternal grandfather's side. The Goodwin commode stands as a testament to the artistry and functionality of 18th or 19th century design. The piece is clearly marked Goodwin & Company, both inside the drawer and on the back, underscoring its heritage and provenance. Goodwin & Company, a renowned furniture dealer, flourished in San Francisco from the 1850s until about 1879, leaving a lasting legacy in the local furniture industry. James Porter Goodwin, an Irish immigrant, founded the eponymous company, becoming a leading figure in furniture. It has this pitcher and wash bowl at the top. Upon removing the top, they discovered a metal piece that had been nailed down,
which we undid, and I've got the wound to prove it.
They stumbled upon an advertisement crafted by Tuchfarber in Cincinnati. This particular piece promotes shoes and is rendered as a lithograph on tin. Tin lithography, dating from around 1880 to 1890, was an early form of the lithographic process. The appraiser values this masterpiece
$2,000 to $3,000 in this condition.
Oh, wow.
Only a few pieces can take you back in time,
It was given to my husband's father back in the mid-50s.
and this short sword is definitely one of those pieces. Used most likely during the Battle of San Juancito, this sword gives an aura of longevity. The sword was made in the state of Massachusetts, likely during 1840, and is called a Texas artillery short sword. We can see the handle is made from brass and the sword itself from iron. The blade is also sharpened to maintain its quality. Although much time has passed since it was crafted, it only increases the sword's significance, and it could sell at auction for.
They thought that the sword would bring about $2,000. I think that it would bring closer to $3,000.
The guest received this violin as a gift from their parents when she was 13 years old. The violin was made by Robert Glier, a German-born violin maker who had a violin shop in Cincinnati. It was crafted in 1914 and is labeled as a number 1, indicating that it was of the highest quality in Glier's production. Robert Glier was strongly promoted by the Rudolf Wurlitzer Company of Cincinnati. The Glier family has a long history of violin making, dating back to 1632. Violin's top-quality wood and exceptional tone make it a significant piece of American violin-making history. In terms of value, this violin is estimated to be worth
I think that we're looking at a violin that's $10,000 to $12,000 in the retail world and represents an important part of American history.
Wow, that's amazing.
The guest's family heirloom included a beautiful piece of jewelry that had been passed down through generations. The appraiser identified the first item as a Georgian amethyst and gold necklace.
Tell us a little bit about this beautiful necklace that's here.
Made in England around 1714, the fabulous piece exhibited intricate canottiere work and faceted Siberian amethysts. To their surprise, the necklace's large drop pendant could be removed to become a pin. Additionally, the appraiser also observed lead solder repairs on the piece that could be easily reversed. Regarding the earrings, which were also from the Georgian period, they had some modifications to the back screws. Considering the minor flaws, the potential value the collection could fetch would be
It would be in the neighborhood of $8,000 to $12,000.
Lovely.
That includes a pin also.
It does.
What we have here is a cultural artifact from Eskimo, a remarkable object made out of spruce that was purchased by the guest on a wedding trip.
I think it's definitely Eskimo, and it's a remarkable object. First of all, it's made out of spruce.
Quite extraordinary, this piece is an effigy bowl made of fairly soft wood and has a head which probably represents the spirit of the bull, according to the belief of the Eskimos. Even though the Eskimos don't really do decorative art, this piece features quite a distinctive combination. There is a finger puppet figurine, which is a strange notion, and the back is hollowed out, which makes it look more like a mask in miniature. A piece like this with such cultural heritage and very nice grooved carvings, plus pigment traces, is surely worth a fortune and is highly valued at.
I will put a price of, say, between $18,000 and $20,000.
Oh my goodness.
The guest's serendipitous rescue of a painting from the trash turned out to be a stroke of good fortune. The abandoned artwork, left behind by a theater production, was revealed to be the creation of Giorgio Prestopino, an artist with a fascinating backstory. Prestopino's artistic path began at a crossroads in his youth. At the age of 14, he faced a decision between a life of crime and a life pursuing art. Fortunately, he chose the latter and enrolled at the prestigious National Academy of Design. Prestopino's artistic journey spanned many years, resulting in a diverse body of work that showcased a significant evolution in style. His early works differed greatly from his later creations, with the human figure serving as the sole unifying element throughout his artistic career. The rescued painting, titled Morning Nude No. 1, was an oil-on-canvas work estimated to date back to the late 1950s or early 1960s. The subject matter is a reinterpretation of a classic theme, a woman depicted at her dressing table. This artistic interpretation, along with Prestopino's established career, contributed to the surprisingly high appraisal value of,
conservatively at auction, you're probably looking at about $6,000 to $8,000.
Whoa. That was well more than I would have ever expected.
The guest brought in a beautiful necklace, a family heirloom passed down from her grandmother. While the grandmother considered it costume jewelry, it is actually a valuable piece from the late 19th century. The necklace, crafted in 14-karat gold, featured a vibrant array of gemstones, green, pink, and yellow tourmalines, along with peridot stones. These colorful gems were separated by old mine-cut diamonds, a style characteristic of the era. An inscription on the necklace revealed the maker's mark, Jacques and Marcus, an iteration of the Marcus & Company jewelers. This company was founded by a former Tiffany employee, and their work held considerable value. The guest mentioned that someone previously offered to buy the necklace only for the weight of the gold.